I love sessions like this because as gray as mental health is, any opportunity to make it a little more black and white just for ease of understanding really helps me. And we're about to do that with the 9 traits of schizotypal personality disorder. Why don't we start with trait number 1?
So the first one is called what we call ideas of reference. Now that is what we don't see in this schizotypal personality are delusions of reference. Delusions of reference we'd see in a psychotic disorder like schizophrenia. A delusion is an alteration in belief. It's a false belief and not based in reality. An idea of reference is this sense that people are talking about you and things are about you, and it's not out of left field, but you are making too many things about you. There's like a tinge of paranoia to it without it being fully paranoid. So it's almost an egocentricity. This is about me, and this is about me, and this is about me, right? So there's something very primitive thinking all these things are about you, but they become very self-referential. They think people are looking at them, and you may be looking at them, but they'll perceive a menace in that. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
That's what an idea of reference is.
Okay. What about the second one?
The second one is that people with schizotypal personality will often have odd beliefs or engage in magical thinking. If I think this, then this thing will happen. Or, on this particular date, something will happen. It's a little bit worse than having like a lucky rabbit's foot, but it's like a certain date will mean something. So they might go to great pains on that day to avoid a bad consequence from that. But their beliefs are strange. I mean, almost they may even be at the level of like really believing in like psychic stuff, but in a way that seems beyond the pale for other people.
But millions of people believe in psychic
Beyond
stuff.
that, that's what I'm saying. It would really be something that's it's not just consistent with cultural norms. It's really something that is, it's more unusual than that. And like I said, where do you draw that line? A lot of it has to do with the culture one is embedded in. I think somebody might take umbrage, for example, if somebody was, I don't know, the head of a major hospital. And if that person said, I'm using numerology to decide how we're going to make major spending decisions, but then a person who's the head of a major hospital likely wouldn't have schizotypal personality either. But it is odd beliefs, it's magical thinking, it's drawing lines together on beliefs that, it's like believing that on the night of a lunar eclipse, that some terrible fate is going to befall people, and then doing things to prevent that terrible fate. That's what I mean by that.
Okay. All right, what about the third one?
The third one entails unusual perceptual experiences. So these are people who might report, see, this is where it gets tricky with schizotypal personality. These are not hallucinations. Okay. They are not seeing things that are not there, but they will say, I feel a vision. There's a vision, I feel it. Right now, there are these people in the room, I can feel their energy. That's very different than George Washington is sitting on that sofa.
I feel like I've heard people say that all the time in Los Angeles.
Huh.
Like you walk in a room and they go, ooh, I feel the energy. There must be somebody here that isn't happy.
And someone like me would probably turn to my dining companion and say, this person might be schizotypal.
Okay, all right.
But it really is this sense of they will report feeling energy and hearing certain frequencies and seeing certain frequencies and and they'll describe it and they'll endorse it like they're having it, but it's not. Like I said, they'll say, I feel the energy of these people in the room, and now that this energy is here, we can we can make love now or something. You're like, okay, it's an interesting line. Dang. But it's not like saying Jesus is on the sofa.
Right.
They're not it's not a specifically identified individual. They're not giving them presence.
Because they're not hallucinating.
They're not hallucinating.
Okay.
They're not hallucinating.
All right, let's go to the next one.
Okay, and the next one is that they will express odd thinking and odd ways of speaking or odd speech. And so their thinking or their speech may be vague. It may be what we call circumstantial, meaning that they're talking in circles. They're not really talking about something, but they're talking about it in these almost tangential ways. So they'll be saying things, but they won't be saying things. So they'll be talking about energy, or they'll be talking about a phenomenon, they'll be talking about a conspiracy. It's not unusual for people with schizotypal personality styles to be conspiracy theorists. So the events some of these events they're talking about may have really happened, but they try to draw a line across them. So as they talk about it and as they think about it, their thinking doesn't hang together in a good, linear, logical way. So again, in schizophrenia, we would talk about somebody having a thought disorder. So they're literally, the way they're thinking about things, there's no logical sense to it. People with schizotypal personality don't have a full-on thought disorder, but the way they talk doesn't really make sense. It can be very vague, it can be very impressionistic, they're not really making a point. It's like they're talking around the point, but they never get to it.
Understood. Let's go to trait number 5.
The 5th quality of schizotypal personality disorder relates to their suspiciousness. They are very suspicious of other people, of their motives. They're very mistrustful. And they can look, frankly, paranoid, but not be fully paranoid. Again, that's that line between, I truly believe you're out to get me and I'm defending myself against you. It's rather like, why are you looking at me? What do you want? What do you see? Do you know? Like it'll almost be to the point where they'll get into a very suspicious conflict with someone. And what that does is it makes them strange in their behavior. They'll be hoarding all their stuff. They'll be worried that someone is going to take their things. They will, it'll feel suspicious to the point of paranoid. And so as a result, they often have very antagonistic interactions with people because they perceive malevolent intent from other people.
Even when it's not there.
Even when it's not there. Even when somebody's not even looking at them.
Right.
They may literally be looking over there, but the person's kind of on the way to there, so they think that they're looking at them. But it is in a more menacing way. It's not that kind of antagonistic, narcissistic, psychopathic, you looking at me kind of thing. It's really like, what are you looking at? You know, it's that. It's quite different.
Understood. Yeah. Okay, trait number 6.
With trait number 6, we see a pattern around their emotional presentation, or something we call their affect. And specifically, it's called inappropriate affect or constricted affect. Inappropriate affect is when a person just starts laughing to themselves loudly by themselves to nothing in particular. Or they seem to be getting angry and there's no one there to be angry at. Their emotional reactions don't make sense given what's being talked about or what's going on in their environment. That's inappropriate affect. The behavioral manifestation of the emotion and what appears to be the actual emotion, I should say, don't match up.
Yeah, but sometimes haven't we all been in a meeting where you're thinking about something funny and then it really gets you going and you're trying to laugh even though it's inappropriate, or trying not to laugh because it's inappropriate to laugh at
that's one time.
Yeah.
Now imagine though, I'm going to give you the example of somebody who might be on the street and is screaming at you, get away from my stuff, get away from my stuff. You come near me, I'm gonna, get so mad at you. And then they start laughing like a madman. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't add up. The manifestation, the demonstration of the emotion at that point doesn't connect. Or they can have what we call constricted affect. Constricted affect is when there's very, very little emotional manifestation. They're almost very monotone, and they don't make eye contact, and they don't show joy, and they don't show anger. They just sort of, it's like that. There's no emotion. So it's either inappropriate and disconnected, or it's very constricted.
All right. Let's move on to trait number 7.
This gets at with their appearance and their behavior, and it's usually behavior that looks odd, eccentric, or really peculiar. This goes back to your original point. How eccentric is eccentric enough? So this could be manifest in the way they're walking, the things they're carrying, the vocalizations they're uttering as they walk by, the way they're dressed, their costuming, the things they're carrying, all of those things that would be odd or peculiar or downright eccentric. And it's that, what you might be thinking, well, there's parts of town where people do that to get attention. Sure. But then they shouldn't have, again, you need 5 of 9 of the things on this list. So that's the only thing they're doing. That might even be more of a histrionic presentation where they're trying to get attention. Here we're talking about people who almost don't get that this isn't okay. Like this is not consistent with the cultural norm of a particular situation.
But so there's a delusion there.
Not a delusion, I would say a distorted perception.
And so what's the difference between delusion and distorted perception?
A delusion is you actually really believe this thing is true. And
like you really believe you're Mickey Mouse.
Yes.
Not just wearing the Mickey Mouse costume.
Or you believe you're Walt Disney.
Or you believe you're Walt Disney. Okay. Let's go on to trait number 8.
Number 8 gets to the fact that people with schizotypal personality don't do well with close relationships. And what we see is that they have no close friends, no close relationships, and maybe the only relationships they have are close relatives. And in that way, they're not even close to them, but they may have a mother or a father or a brother or an aunt that they'll have contact with, but otherwise, they do not have any close relationships. And that's a real signature quality, because the absence of close relationships is something we take notice of. Another place we've seen this and something we've talked about is antisocial personality disorder. Now, they don't have trusted or trusting or reciprocal close relationships, but they have people they have sex with, they have people that they domineer over, they have people they work with, they may even be married. It would be incredibly rare to see a person with schizotypal personality disorder be married or be a parent or any of that.
Okay. And the final trait?
The final trait relates to social anxiety. People with schizotypal personality have incredible social anxiety. They do not know how to engage with other people. They don't know how to interact with other people. They don't do well with appropriate social interactions. And if somebody approaches them and expects to have an appropriate back and forth, the social anxiety is paralyzing for individuals with schizotypal personality disorder. And it can come off as them being unusual or peculiar or bizarre, but more than anything, they're really overwhelmed by social anxiety. Social anxiety is something we see in many psychotic disorders.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that rundown was very helpful. And in our next session, we'll talk about the diagnostic process and the treatment options for those with STPD.